All right, Larry Kruger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show after John Lynch speaks at the Combine. We're coming up next right here with a little Krug Show. Here we go. All right, welcome to the Krug Show as we come to you after John Lynch speaks at the Combine. There we go. Fire up the band. A little laggy today, I see. A little laggy. Hopefully it catches up here in a sec. Welcome to the Krug Show, brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California is Pig and a Pickle. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. We're also brought to you by our good friends at Sleeper. Thanks to Sleeper for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show, and, of course, Habbas Law. We'll talk more about them in a bit, but the story of the day, John Lynch spoke for the first time since the 49ers season wrapped up, and a lot of interesting stuff today. A lot of interesting stuff. There we go. Get our Sleeper wrap around there. But welcome to the Krug Show. You know, we knew this was going to be kind of a big information day, and just some takeaways. The Niners plan to release Brandon Ayuk at the start of the new league year if they can't trade him first. So we'll see. Is there a trade market for Ayuk? That's the first question. If there is, they're going to trade him. If not, they're going to release him. I always wondered how that worked, too. It's like, how does that work where you're telling everybody you're going to release a guy? Obviously, nobody's going to give you anything good in a trade if you're saying, well, we may trade him, but if we don't get a good offer, we'll release him. But it's also about, how much money he gets and who pays that money and how it's divvied up and so on and so forth. So there's an impact, and I'm sure the Niners would love to get something for Ayuk if they could. If not, they're gonna cut him loose. So he's played his last downs with the Niners. That's not news because we knew that going in. It's funny. There's been a lot of talk about Trent Williams because the Adam Schefter report came out saying that the 49ers may wind up releasing Williams and making him a free agent if they can't get on the same page contractually on some kind of a restructure. He's been around forever. He's older. I'm sure they're looking to save a few bucks. That's always what they're looking to do, is save a few bucks. And Lynch said that they've had, quote, good and productive meetings with Trent Williams' agent, and they have confidence a deal is going to get done. I have confidence that deal will get done as well. But here's the question. Do the Niners fashion themselves as contenders? And if they don't fashion themselves as contenders, and they think it's going to be a year or two before they're contenders, do they just trade them and try to turn the page on the entire era? Do they get aggressive? I mean, the one thing we don't know is are they going to get super aggressive and try to trade off some of these pieces for picks and try to turn the page? They got real aggressive last year with how they wanted to address their dead cap with over $100 million of dead cap. Are they going to get that kind of aggressive with some of their veteran players and move off of them? Or are they going to the finish line or towards the finish line with the Boses and the Williams and the Kittles and a lot of these guys are already signed, of course. They're all already signed. But according to John, good and productive meetings with Trent Williams. Here's the bottom line. He makes a lot of money. He's older. They want to redo the deal, but it's complicated because you don't want to extend it out into future seasons too far because that's all dead cap once he retires. And you don't want to extend too many years on an older player when he's kind of going year to year. And I kind of feel like he's going year to year with them. They're going year to year with him. So I think I don't think that's a secret, right? I think that they're all on, I think Shanahan and Lynch have been very, very transparent with Trent Williams, probably more so than they are with other players. So I do think they have a good relationship. I think Trent and Kyle have a unique relationship. I don't think Trent's going anywhere, but, then there's this restructure and how much does Trent get paid? The bottom line is he's got the leverage in the situation. There's only so many Trent Williamses, If you really want to get rid of the best left tackle in football, really. So there aren't too many guys like him, and you don't have his future replacement sitting there ready and waiting. So you don't have any leverage in that front. Now, if you had drafted a premier tackle in the last couple of years and he was just sitting there playing left guard or right tackle, waiting for Trent to retire, then you would have all the leverage in the world. You could say, hey, Trent, take a hike. This is our offer. Take it or leave it. But because you don't have that in place and left tackles are really hard to find, and unless you want to invest your 27th pick in the first round in an offensive tackle, and even then that might not get it done, and almost assuredly will be a downgrade on Trent because Trent's a Hall of Famer, still playing at a really high level. So, their choices are not great here. And I would say that Trent Williams, how gracious is he? Does he want to work with them somewhat, or does he want to just stick it to them and say, get me mine? So we'll see. I respect both approaches, but at the same time, if you're a team player, be a team player. If you're a mercenary looking for every buck, then be a mercenary and get every buck. But let's just be real about what we are, one way or another. So and I'm okay with either one, because the bottom line is the players risk it all, and the careers are short, and the money's got to last for a lifetime. And I get all of that, and it's a business. Right? It's a business. So Trent's got to do what's right for him business wise. But if he wants to be a Niner and the money's close, here's the question. Does he do the 49ers, and does Trent think that the Niners plan is going to get him a ring? He probably knows he only has a year or 2 or 3 at most left to play. And I'm sure he wants that ring. So does he go somewhere else in search of that ring? That would be a real blow to the 49ers' ego as a franchise if he went somewhere else seeking a ring and took less to do it. I can't see that happening. I think if he's going to take less to stay on a contender, he'll still view the Niners as a contender and stay. But that's an interesting thing to watch. Where does the Trent Williams thing go? And how aggressive are they with him as far as what kind of money they want to save, and how tied, how much is his ego tied to his paycheck? Does he want to sacrifice some paycheck for them to have a better roster, to have a better chance of winning the Super Bowl? Or is it, get every penny, or is it about, I'll sacrifice, but only if I think we've got a chance to win the Super Bowl? Every guy's got kind of a different, walk away moment, or what their terms are, especially when you get older and you're a Hall of Fame player. I'm sure his terms, he basically can call his shots, and they're just either going to have to take it or leave it. And I hope they're smart enough to take it, because if they leave it, that would be unfortunate. Then you're looking at an Austin Pleasance, Colton McKivitz starting lineup with no third tackle and any injuries, and you're just you're putting your quarterback, who you're paying significant amount of money, by the way, in serious harm's way. So there's that. So that's one of the topics. That was one of the takeaways today. So we had the Ayuk revelation. We had the Trent Williams update, if you want to call it that. The Niners also announced today, or Lynch also announced, the 49ers have agreed to a contract extension with John Weeks. This is something I've talked about. I'd keep the whole special teams group if I could together. Why? Because you have sucked on special teams for a lot of years. And this year you figured it out. You have the right coach. You have the right specialist. Try to keep as much continuity with your special teams unit as possible. I really like Boyer, and I liked him from the first time I met him. I thought, man, this guy's the real deal. He's tough. He's smart. He's intense. He holds guys to high standards. He's a no frills, no bullshit kind of a guy, that's my kind of guy every day. So I'm a big fan of his. And then Weeks, Weeks has done the job. Morstead's done the job. Eddie Piñeiro's more than done the job. Sky Moore has done the job. I get no problem bringing that group back, especially on a team where there's going to be some turnover and you're going to have a bunch of needs to fill. If you're going to get some continuity on your football team, it may have to come through special teams. Continuity is always a good thing, but the Niners need a lot of new faces. They got to inject 6 to 7 new faces on offense, 6 to 7 new faces on defense. they got some, they're going to have some turnover on both sides of the ball, and maybe their continuity, roster continuity, of which there is value in that. I could talk for hours about roster continuity, how important that is. Just have some of the same guys in the room, and not everybody's brand new. And I think maybe they can get that out of special teams. So they agreed to a contract extension with John Weeks. The team also expects a big-time jump from Jacob Cowing in 2026. They're big fans of Cowing. Let me just say this. I've been tough on Ricky because he's glass. I've been tough on Cowing because he's glass. The only thing is I feel like Cowing produced in college in two different programs. Ricky was in two different programs. I just don't think the production's quite was there. Cowing was really productive at UTEP and then really productive at U of A opposite Tetaroa McMillan, and had a really, really good career in two different spots and two different offenses, by the way. So I kind of like Cowing, and I just think that the first year he needed to get stronger, and then he just had these hamstring issues. So he's gotten a little bit stronger. He knows the offense. What's intriguing about him is he's got speed and he's a route runner. See, there's guys that run routes, but they don't have speed. Then there's guys who are, burners, but they run the go route. They run the post. They run like 3 routes. They run like a corner, a go, and a post, and that's it. Cowing can run the full tree, and he can run in the 4.3s, and he was productive in college in 2 different spots. So, yeah, the hamstring thing has been a nightmare. But that's the other thing, too. The other thing I always look for in these guys that miss a lot of time, is it like a Ricky situation where they're just having a hard time managing pain and they've had a number of different injuries? Or is it like one thing they can't get over or can get over? And I use that as an example because, Jesse Sapolu, take the ex-Niner offensive lineman. He had a first couple of years in the league. He was a late round pick, I think a 12th round, believe it or not. But they liked him a lot. But he had his first couple of years of his career kind of wiped away because of foot issues. And he couldn't get healthy. And but it wasn't like he was injury prone or couldn't manage pain or anything like that. He had one injury that he couldn't get beyond. And then it took him 2 years. He got beyond it. The guy went out and won 3 championships, and was a multiple-time Pro Bowler and a really good player at center, a really good player at guard. A decorated borderline Hall of Fame interior offensive lineman who didn't play until like his 3rd year because of injuries. So maybe Cowing's in that thing. I'm not saying he's a Hall of Famer. Okay. Krug says Cowing's going to the Hall. No, I'm not saying that. But I really liked this kid coming out. I really did. And what I saw was a route runner with impact speed and ball skills. Now he's a little small, and that was the question. And then all of a sudden he looked really weak early, had a hard time even maintaining his feet. The game looked too physical for him. Then he made the adjustment, put on some weight, got used to the speed, and then the hamstrings started to go. 1, 2, 3, 4 different pulls. So it's obviously about getting his legs right? So he's got to get his legs right. That's first and foremost. But if he does, I think him and Watkins are both receivers to watch for in 26. I really do. I know people would say, come on, you've been talking these guys up forever. Thank God they haven't produced. I get it. I totally get it. But I'm just saying. I mean, if you ask me how I feel, that's how I feel. I believe in Watkins, and to some degree, I believe in Cowing. Why? Because I'm a believer that the best players in the NFL are just the guys that were the best players in college. And if you produced in college, you're probably going to produce in the NFL, especially if you have 4.3 speed and those measurables, and the production. Both. We're not talking about guys who are just track guys. Jordan Watkins had 9 touchdowns for the running Rebs, the Ole Miss Rebs. 9 touchdowns. He led the SEC in touchdowns. And then Cowing, very productive player, both at UTEP and Arizona, and productive on a team that had Tet McMillan on the other side. He was an underclassman, but still they were on the same team together, and Cowing was very, very productive. So I'm just saying, There are guys that I think, no, like Junior Bergen to me. When I see Junior Bergen, I think, no, nope. And I can just say that right now. I don't need to invest a lot of time. But Cowing, 4.3 speed, ball skills, production. Watkins, 4.3 speed, ball skills, production, did it in the SEC. I just think that these guys still very much could be on the rise. So it's good to hear that Lynch is feeling that way as well. The Niners are bringing back uh, Adolfo Mensa, Adolfo Mensa, who was the Vikings general manager who got fired. Believe it or not, that whole situation with Darnold led to him losing his job. He had been with the 49ers before. And so he comes in and, they need to get this draft right. How good of a personnel executive is he? I could not tell you. But another set of eyes, another intelligent personnel guy that they like on their team, another voice in the room who potentially has got some vision, a new look at things. It's always potentially good. I mean, who doesn't matter who it is, but they have to make better picks. They just can't, it's not personal, it's business. And it's just, they got to make better picks. They have to hit at a higher rate than they're hitting, period. Bottom line, end of story. And if they do, they got a great shot. And if they don't, there you go. According to Lynch, there's been talks with Juwan Jennings, but free agency's coming up, and Jennings is going to go pursue his market. So they want Jennings. They love Jennings. We all love Jennings. There's nothing not to love about Jennings. All Jennings does is score touchdowns. Who showed up in the Super Bowl? Jennings. I want more Jennings, not less Jennings. If you could clone Jennings, I would do that in a heartbeat. If I could trade Ricky Pearsall, who's glass, for 5 Jennings, I would do it in a heartbeat. And they would be my wide receiver core. I'd just take my chances. Yeah, Jennings is all guts. And Shanahan loves him. Lynch loves him. The fans love him. His teammates love him. He's a warrior. He's a true warrior. He shows up for the W. It's not about the contract anymore. It's not about the bonus money, though he does want the bonus money. And he wanted the ball this year to get those bonuses. So I'm not sure if that's his thing. But he's a winner. This guy plays for the W. This guy's all about the win. And that, to me, you can't have enough guys like that. So they want him back. They want him back. I bet you Shanahan and Lynch don't agree on everything, but the one thing they do agree on is how much they love and respect and want this guy back. But, there's a belt tightening going on. If they're not going to spend a lot of money, the last thing they're going to do is just give Jennings some super bloated contract. So I don't see that happening. I don't see a bloated contract happening. Now, he was full disclosure. I share everything I can share with you guys that I think is not breaking a trust of any kind. I give you the vibe in the locker room that I sense when I'm there, and I know what I'm watching. This is a tough guy whose tone sets the tone in the room all year long, from training camp every day. He's a tone-setting person in that room for the 49ers. He's evolved into that. He wasn't always like that, but that's what Jennings is. He's a tone-setting guy, and he's a strong presence. And he was downright weepy on the last day with the media. I mean, downright, just sad. And and it's not because he's going to miss me or anybody in the media necessarily. I shouldn't say that. Maybe he'll miss some people in the media. But it's just that this is the only team he's ever been on in the NFL. This was the team that drafted him. And so this is the only NFL family he knows, and he doesn't want to leave, but he knows he's probably going to have to leave if he's going to get paid, and he needs to get paid. So it's a tough situation, because on one hand, man, you got to keep these kinds of guys. On the other hand, football is not forever, and you got to take care of your family. I mean, it's not, you're playing to take care of your family. It's a job. So, he's got to, the difference between what he may get offered in Tennessee, let's say, to go play in Tennessee, by the way, we didn't even mention that, where he's a hero, a star, a conquering hero, a returning hero. And he would be great. I mean, if I'm Robert Saleh, I want to do the right thing for Cam Ward. What do I do? Juwan Jennings. Cam Ward thanked me in 3 years. You know, that's what he needs. Is he needs his Juwan Jennings. A guy's just gonna fight for every ball and fight for every yard, and unbelievable character, football character. So, that's a tough one. Can they get on the same page? We're gonna find out, I guess. Does how much does Jennings want to be a Niner? Because he definitely seems sad, and so maybe he wants to be a Niner so much that he would take some in-between deal. The Niners are not going to be the high bidder. He's going to get a better offer to go somewhere else. The question is he want to take the highest offer? Is the highest offer the best offer, or would he come back to the Niners for less? I think that's really the question. So, yeah, I would not be surprised if he's back. All the people gave their predictions about the season, and there's a lot of people that think Mac Jones is coming back. I don't think so. I think he's too valuable, and he's going to be moved because he's too valuable. Though they love Mac Jones, but Jennings, on the other hand, I'm eager to see what kind of market he has, because we live in a world where GMs and everybody's into measurables, and his measurables are not good. I mean, he had a lot of targets. He didn't have a lot of yards for a guy who had a lot of targets. His target to yards ratio is not great this year, and they look at that. And then they, of course, going to look at his 40. And in fact, he's getting older, and he missed some time because of injuries. I mean, the guy had a bunch of injuries this year. I look at it as, man, he's a freaking warrior who plays through a lot of injuries. But other people might look at it like, he's a bigger guy, doesn't move that well. He's gonna incur more injuries as he ages, and so there may not be this burgeoning market for JJ, and he may be back. I kind of hope that he's back, because they need some continuity at receiver, and they don't have a whole lot. All right. That was one of the stories. So Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah is back in the 49ers front office, and he's now part of their brain trust, and we'll see what kind of impact that makes, I guess, on the offseason that's coming up. There's been talks with JJ. We'll see where that goes. That's probably going to, my guess is he goes somewhere on day 1 or 2 of free agency for a big figure. But maybe not. The Niners don't anticipate using the franchise tag on Eddie Pinheiro, that which is consistent with what Matt Barrows had said about Eddie Pinheiro about the Niners, that they don't want to spend a lot of money on Eddie Pinheiro. Franchise tag $6.7 million. I was thinking maybe $5 million, but no, I don't think they want to spend that. I think they want to spend like 3.5. And the question is, does he, because he could probably get 4 or 4.5 or 5 somewhere. Does he bolt for the extra $1 million? Maybe, seems like a weird place to want to save money when you got a kicker who's in the prime of his career, is 28 of 29. I mean, let's talk real turkey for a second. What do you need to win in the NFL? Like, what do you really need? You got to have a quarterback. You got to have a head coach. Got to have a pretty good offensive line coach. Okay. And then what? You need a good kicker. You need a guy who makes kicks. Would the Patriots run have been the Patriots run if you didn't have Vinatieri? Probably not. And he's now going to the Hall of Fame. So, I'm not saying that Eddie Pinheiro is Vinatieri Hall of Fame kicker, but you just witnessed one of the best kicking years you've ever seen. This guy fits your culture. He's a hero to your fan base, and you're going to let him walk because you'd rather pay him 3.5 and he wants 4.5? Really? That is going to be a tough explanation from a franchise that invested a 3rd freaking round pick in a kicker that went poof up in smoke, you're now going to look away from the gift veteran kicker in his prime that fits into your locker room that everybody loves, including your fans, to save $1.5 million. I mean, really? Yeah, really? That's what we're talking about? Yeah, I got to question the wisdom of that one. According to the reports, the following players are all expected to be ready for training camp: Nick Bosa from the ACL injury, Keon White from being shot in the ankle and having subsequent ankle surgery, Mikael Williams with the ACL, Alfred Collins with the shoulder surgery. But I mean, that's great. But, I think the Niners got to go forward with the knowledge that 4 key guys on their defensive front have physical issues before they even played one snap. I'm not saying you can't depend on these guys. I'm just saying you better bolster that position more than it looks bolstered, because you got 4 guys coming off of injuries. Bosa, Keon White, Mikael Williams, Alfred Collins. You need major snaps from all 4 of those guys to have a shot next year of doing anything, most likely. So it's going to be really important that they have a bonanza of a draft, a bonanza. So there you go. A lot of interesting stories there around the 49ers. Lynch talked a little bit about Mac Jones as well. And he said he's really good for us, and we value that. And so somebody would have to come with something fairly strong for us to consider. And I don't know what we do. Obviously, there's always something that would make you do it. But I think we're a better team with him on it. And we just like having him around. Yeah, I mean, there's no question. They love Mac Jones. He's a perfect fit. He really is. He's just more value. If unless you're banking that Purdy's going to be healthy, I mean, Purdy's going to be hurt. If Purdy's healthy, you're talking about a guy who's, you're talking about a guy that could fetch you maybe a day 2 pick and a starter, and you're not going to get anything for him. He's going to walk away then at the end of the year. That's a lot to pay for an insurance quarterback when, there are going to be other quarterbacks that you could go from or go choose from. You're probably one of the spots that most quarterbacks want to play in. There's if you like the quarterback in the draft, that's a lot cheaper option if you're looking to save every nickel. How about, finding a quarterback in the draft that you really like as a backup quarterback, and then throw Rourke and Martinez and that guy together and take those extra dollars and, I don't know, sign your kicker and have a kicker. I don't know, but it's an interesting thing. It's like you don't want to pay the extra $1.5 million most likely for your kicker, but you're willing to keep Mac Jones as a security, as a basic security when, if Brock is healthy, he's going to play every snap of every game. So that's kind of an interesting. I think what we're looking at there, just in my opinion, posturing. So Lynch said the team is pretty happy with the current starters on the offensive line. However, they note that the left guard will need to be addressed because of the injury. Yeah, I think that they like their offensive line more than we like their offensive line. And the question, I guess, has to be then, if you like your offensive line, why couldn't you run the ball or even try to run the ball on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1 in the playoffs against your number one rival, the Seattle Seahawks? You didn't even try to run the ball. And you're telling me that you knew you could run it up the middle, but you just decided to run wide on a really fast, young, aggressive defense. That's not plausible. If you really believed in your interior, you would have run the ball in the middle You got a great back, but you didn't run the ball in the middle. So I don't know. I mean, I know they're pretty happy because they got Brendel on the contract for one more year, but they need to move some people inside. And Brendel at 34, at 285, 290 pounds. I don't know. To me, he's a decent blocker in the run game, but the numbers say he's a subpar pass protector. But then he doesn't really. He's more of a position blocker. He's not really going to uproot anybody out of the hole. He's definitely not going to blow anybody out of there at 280 at age 34. So, and then I thought he was really lacking as a pass protector this year. And I think that that's a position they really need to upgrade. But they obviously, Firster has been, he's had Brendel going back to Miami. He recommended Brendel to Shanahan. Brendel's success is one of the reasons Firster has as much credibility as he does with Shanahan, is that they were spending a lot of money on Weston Richburg. They were spending a lot of money on Alex Mack. And Firster was like, hey, we can go with this guy that I know in Miami, Brendel, and we can pay him a fraction of what we're paying those guys. And that's going to be great for us. And it worked out. And they got a player, and they had success, and they like Jake, and he fits in well. But he doesn't move anybody in the run game. And he's had major issues this year as a pass protector. So I don't know. To me, I think the answer is go find a couple interior players that are more like 320, 330, who are really physical at the point, and start running the ball. Get another runner, get a couple more interior offensive linemen, get some better blockers on the edge, both at tight end and at receiver. You didn't block very well on the edges this year, but you didn't block well at the point either. I mean, that's why you have Christian McCaffrey, and he went for under 3 yards a carry 5 times. 5 times. Come on, that's inexcusable. Under 3 yards a carry for Christian McCaffrey, and we're going to sit there and talk about we like our offensive line? Really? Well, then what do you don't like Christian then? Here's the thing. It doesn't have to be Christian's fault. It doesn't have to be Brendel's fault. It doesn't have to be, Ayuk's fault, but it can't be nobody's fault, because he couldn't run it this year. And your run coordinator, obviously Seattle didn't think it was Fleury's fault, because they just hired him to be their offensive coordinator. In some ways, he's vindicated. So who's the reason that they couldn't run it? Is it their line? Is it their scheme? Is it Christian? What is it? I think it's partially the receivers. The fact they had no receivers, no receivers that scared anybody, the slowest receiving core in the league by far, that there was no penalty to, sitting there in basically and just daring teams to, there was nobody worried about the Niners down the field passing game. So I think most teams, they were going against different teams each week with different schemes. But when you can't throw the ball down the field, and you don't have the dynamic players that can make plays down the field, and you're not getting yards after the catch, like the Niners didn't get yards after the catch this last year, everybody's in the box. Everybody's up close. It's hard to get explosive runs. Yeah, they got no explosive runs. And we can say it's Christian, but it wasn't Christian. It's not Christian. It's how teams defended the Niners without speed. And when you have no speed, they don't have to be as deep. It's not that complicated. If you have guys that can run by you that you're worried about, guess what? You're going to hedge a little bit. You're going to give them a little bit more room, a little bit more space, and you're not going to be in position to make tackles in the run game. But if the team's got no speed, you're like, oh, we're hugging up. We're squeezing these guys out. We're going to choke them out. And if they want to throw it over our heads, let's see them do it. And the Niners can't do it. Don't do it. Don't have the weapons to do it. And that's the way that it's really hurt them. Lynch did note that the Niners potentially could trade Brandon Ayuk if they find a trade partner before the new year begins. That's kind of interesting. I kind of thought of Ayuk as untradeable, but receivers are so heavily coveted. I don't think nobody's going to give you anything good, but it'll be interesting to see if anybody gives you anything at all. He seems like the kind of guy, believe it or not, that may get them a pick. Why? Because he's like a guy that somebody's going to love. Somebody's going to see like real value. When some of these guys get broken, a lot of people are like, done, moving on. Other people are like, yes, we're gonna get them out of the reclaimed pile, and we're gonna rebuild them. Some people like to rebuild things, and I think that's the natural thing. This guy was a 1,300-yard receiver not that long ago. Yeah, so he had a crushing knee injury. He's already had plenty of time to rehab. Get him right, get him healthy, get him out there, and let's see it. And probably is worth a 6th-round pick. I don't know if that floats anybody's boat, but Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick, so you never know. What you can always use a 6th-round pick. So I don't know. I mean, it as far as the Matt Barrows report that it's not going to be a big spending off season, I could picture that. I don't know if they're going to spend big money. To me, it's more about strategic spending. It's like spend money on a couple of free agents that you target and need, and bolster your team. Don't go crazy on free agents because you wind up with Devondre Campbell. And what I mean by that is you wind up with guys that aren't part of your culture and don't value what the same things you value and aren't team guys, and they don't fit in. And then you have bad chemistry. So you don't want to do too many free agents because you want guys who grow up in your system. But get a couple of difference maker guys in free agency, spend aggressively in the undrafted market. And other than that, I think I would probably trade back and get more picks in the draft, trade Jones for as many assets as I possibly could in the draft for this year, trade back, try to see if you can wind up with a 12 or 15 man draft class and fill all your needs, couple shots. If you can draft 15 players and 12 of them make your team, you've done pretty well. Then you sign a couple free agents, and it's not a big deal that you don't have a bonanza free agent wise. But if you're not going to participate at all in the free agent market, and you're going to lean all on your draft, well, then you better hit the draft at a higher clip than the Niners have. And maybe Kwesi, maybe his addition will jumpstart their picks. They've missed 10 times in the 3rd round. The big headline is going to be, Trent Williams could be traded. I don't think Trent Williams is going to be traded. I don't think Trent Williams could be traded. I think they're going to work it out. Now, unless the Niners have some, the Niners are never going to look at their team and be like, we have no shot. They're just not. I mean, even if they believe that, they're not going to publicly take that kind of a stance. They know there's too many hardcore 49er fans. Their fan base is too intense right now. They're not going to be like, we're taking a year off. But this was the year off. They didn't do much at the trade deadline. They didn't trade any assets, really. They sat out free agency outside of Mac Jones and special teams guys. They sat out undrafted free agent spending. They were 26th in the NFL in undrafted free agent spending. So they really trimmed it back this last year. They had over $100 million of dead cap, and they hit the reset. Now, that's okay, but is there, they spend roughly $300 million. So it's like that's what they spent when the money was at this level, but now the money's raised up, and they're still spending at roughly the same level. So they're spending less overall on free agents. I don't really think that the free agent lane is the best lane to spend your money in, but you got to be competitive. And when you have as many holes as they have, where are the players going to come from? You almost get the feeling like Shanahan had a lot of sway with Jed early in the run. And now here we are late in the run, and Jed's just like, no, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it on your own. I'm not going to sign anybody special. I'm not going to extend in any real way. We're not going to, we're going to spend what we're going to spend. But we're not going to go crazy in any one year. It's almost like I mean, he doesn't have forever, right? So how many years does he have? It seems like if he had, some people think that, Shanahan has 3 years, 5 years, whatever. Nobody has forever, by the way. So this idea that, oh, he'll always be here. No, no, it's not the way it works. He won't always be here. You don't have forever. Go ask Mike Tomlin about forever. Go ask John Harbaugh about forever. Those guys won Super Bowl rings in their locales and they're out. So nothing is forever. You just get more time. Mike Shanahan won Super Bowl rings. Eventually they say goodbye to him. So you don't get forever. Nobody thinks you get forever. Heck, Kyle and John don't think they have forever. So they know that there's some limit to how much time they have. Now, the question is, are the Niners spending more and getting more and more urgent about getting this sixth Lombardi? Or are they pulling back and saying, you know what, we're not going to spend. We're just going to spend the same that we always spend always, and we're not going to adjust to the growing market. And we're going to be very conservative with our spending. So I don't know. I mean, it's to me, it'll be interesting to see if these sides stay together. Everybody's going to say the right thing until the last day. Until Jed's going to always profess love for Kyle and John. John is always going to profess love for Jed. Everybody's going to love everybody until they're getting a divorce. So that's the way these things work. So you can't read any of the commentary because that's just the way it always is. We love him. He loves us. Everybody loves everybody until they don't. So the question is the Niner ownership going to spend the money that the 49er, coaching staff and 49er general manager, the football operations people need to win a championship? And I know there's lots of different ways. They've spent a lot of money on their stadium, upgrading it for the Super Bowl. They've spent a lot of money on a lot of different things. I'm not, Jed's not cheap. I mean, this is not one of those Jed's cheap. No, Jed's not cheap. But last year to not spend on undrafted free agents and to be 26th is short-sighted and illogical. You're building a young team. This last year should have been about trying to unearth as many low-cost young base players that are, guys that are going to be on your roster for the next 5, 6, 7 years. That's what last year was about. And to me, being 26th and undrafted free agent spending, you could have gone out and signed, 4 or 5 other undrafted free agents, and maybe you would unearth a couple more, and then you would have a base of a couple more players on either side of the ball. And then guess what? Going into this draft, you wouldn't have had 13 needs. Maybe you'd only have like 8 needs because you had other players that you signed as an undrafted player. And because those are young players, those guys are essentially like rookies. What's the difference between Brock Purdy or being Mr. Irrelevant and Brock Purdy being undrafted? 1 pick. If he had not gone to the Niners, anybody could have signed him as an undrafted player. So there are lots and lots of good undrafted players, and that's an aggressive market and one that the Niners have dominated and been really good at in previous years. For them to like voluntarily kind of sit it out to save nominal dollars was not wise. And that's what they did last year. So that it's like save for the sake of saving is, when at the end of the day, you're trying to win a championship and you got to use every tool available to you to build the best teams, the Howie Rosemans of the world, the John Schneiders of the world. These guys are absolutely looking for undrafted free agents that they can turn into starters and contributors and guys that can man, roles on a 53-man roster. And that's the game within the game. It's all about roster building and depth. And then 49ers right now have 13 needs because they're just not deep enough. Their wide receiver core decimated. Their linebacking core invisible. I mean, they have absolutely nothing at those 2 positions. I actually saw a rumor the other day that they may re-sign Dre Greenlaw. Oh, my God. I mean, I love Dre Greenlaw. What a huge mistake that would be. Be very popular. People would be like, oh, that's awesome. It's great. It'd be amazing. And Fred would say it's amazing, and everybody would say it's amazing. And I'd interview him. we'd all love it and everything, but he'd be hurt in the 6th game of the year, and we're staring at Jalen Graham again. So that's, to me, the big issue. Don't look back, look forward. Don't go old, go young. But interesting day today. A lot of interesting little revelations there for sure. Let's hit a couple of these supers. What do we got there? Joseph Ernberg. This is going to be a sad regular and off season. Hopefully you're not right. Scott says, let's not forget Bosa cap hits in 26 and 27. That's the real danger coming down the track. Yeah. I mean, the problem is this team's getting older and more expensive and thinner. They paid their quarterback, and then they've literally, since they paid their quarterback, they've done nothing to help him at all. I mean, seriously, they lost George Kittle. They ran McCaffrey into the ground. They didn't use their second running back. Have they built up their offensive line? No. Have they built up their arsenal of weapons with guys that he could just dump it to in the flat with real easy throws so they could get run after the catch yardage? Obviously not. They're dead last in run after the catch. Their receiving core had Debo, Ayuk, Kittle. Now it has none of them. I mean, it's like, what? You drafted Ricky Pearsall in the first round. He doesn't score touchdowns or rarely plays. I mean, how are you supporting your quarterback? It's amazing. They signed Brock. Now they're talking about maybe not. You're not going to re-sign Eddie Pinheiro. Is that helping your quarterback? You may trade, Trent Williams. Is that helping your quarterback? Yeah, they got to help their quarterback. It's time to start building around their quarterback, building an offensive line, building an arsenal of talent, maybe a few more runners, guys who are dynamic, guys who you can just throw it to in the flat, little hitches, and they go and make huge plays. Where's the Niners version of Jahmyr Gibbs? We got this one. Any wide receiver in the draft over 6'2" worth drafting? Oh, yeah. There's a guy named Jeff Caldwell from Cincinnati who's a day 3 receiver who's a 6'6" guy. I really like him. I think he's really good. But there's lots of tall receivers. Omar Cooper for Indiana. He's really good. I think he's a very underrated player for sure. Omar Cooper. Indiana, to me, if there's one team in this thing that just looks so good as far as all the different players they have, it's Indiana. Indiana looks good. All right, let's see. We got this one. We got that already. We got this one. We got that one. We got this one. Okay, now here we go. Now we got a new one. Here we go. We got this one right here from James Foster. Bills are perfect fit for Brandon Ayuk. Bills need a receiver bad. They need a receiver bad. So yeah, that's a good call. Now where I'll tell you the more I think about the receiver position, the more I think I'd go after AJ Brown. AJ Brown's strong. He can block. He's motivated. I don't know if the Eagles would trade him to the Niners, but Ernberg, it's all about 2028, Larry. They will spend then. Yeah, great. Oh my God. Don't make me laugh. That makes me laugh. It's about 2028. I'm going to throw that to Dieter. Dieter, it's not about this year. It's about 2028. Oh, that one cracked me up. This tenure is over Start the rebuild. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Niner forever. Yeah, start the rebuild. I mean, here's the bottom line. In football personnel, you never stop building. You should always look for volume because guys get hurt and lots of guys go down with injuries. And bottom line is you have to be able to, have depth. One year the Green Bay Packers won the Super Bowl and they had 22 guys on season ending IR. 22. That's a lot of guys on season ending IR. And they found a way to still win the Super Bowl. This was the year that when they had Aaron Rodgers. The year they had Rodgers, they had 22 guys on IR, and they still won the Super Bowl. So that's amazing, and that's depth, and you got to have that big time depth if you're going to, win championships, especially in a sport like football where there's this huge amount of attrition. But yeah, I mean, yes, do you need some special players? No question, you need special players. And you got to have them, but you also need depth. And, if you're going to be able to withstand injuries, it's, that old next man up. Well, the next man up thing is all predicated on who that next guy is. If the next guy up is Brock Purdy, I remember when Jimmy Garoppolo went down, I was sitting there going, are you kidding me? Brock Purdy's coming in. We're going to get to see this. People are like, what? Like, yeah, this guy can play, man. Wait till you watch this guy play. This guy's better than that guy. People are looking at me like, better than James Garoppolo? Yes. Yes. We were having that conversation in the press box in real time. People are looking at me like, dude, you are crazy. Our backup quarterback's better than the great Jimmy G. I'm like, yes, dude. Jimmy G sucks. This guy's way better. It was just an amazing moment. Just an amazing moment. We should tell everybody thanks to Sleeper. Quick shout out to our friends at Sleeper. You guys already know Sleeper for fantasy football and daily fantasy, but they've also rolled out something new called Team Picks. Team Picks is built right into the Sleeper app. It lets you make simple predictions on game outcomes. Instead of worrying about player stats or setting lineups, you're just choosing which team you think is going to win. It's really easy. It's really simple. It's designed to be straightforward and easy and simple to understand. So, especially if you like following games closely, but you don't want to deal with all that extra complexity, you are going to love this. If you're already on Sleeper for fantasy, it's right there waiting for you. And if you're new, Sleeper continues to be an all-in-one platform for following your teams and staying connected to the action. Thanks to Sleeper for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. We also want to mention our good friends who brought us our super chats today. And that would be our good friends at Habbas Law. That's right. Habbas Law, 1-800-INJURED. They will fight to make it right. HabbasLaw.com on the web. I love Habbas Law. I mean, they do an amazing job. They're great attorneys. Simple as that. And, when you need a good attorney, you need a good attorney. And you want somebody who's really, really good. I mean, it's just you don't. My dad was an attorney. My brother's a judge. My sister's an attorney. The difference between success and failure is having the correct attorney, and that's the beauty of Habbas Law. They stare down these insurance companies that stall and deny and refuse to pay and come up with every loophole. Oh, well, no, but you didn't click this box, and they just cut right through all of that and just say, no, this you're paying. This is the deal. So they're amazing lawyers. Check them out. 1-800-INJURED. If you want to win, call them. If you don't want to win, call somebody else. They will fight to make it right. And when your case is on the line, you're going to love the fight that they show on your behalf. So HabbasLaw.com on the web, 1-800-INJURED for Habbas Law. Give them a call. And, of course, tell them that Krug sent you. All right, that is going to do it for us. Quick update. I'm up at 6 o'clock on Niners Nightly on KMBR. We'll touch on a lot of these topics. The great Jordan Elliott's going to stop by as well. Until then, have a great afternoon. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of.